Good morning and welcome to our staff meeting. Today we're going to talk about a couple things, but the first thing we're going to talk about Common Core. Nebraska has not adopted the Common Core standards, but I do want to kind of talk about what they are and why they were written. So first of all, the Common Core is a set of standards for English and for math for K through 12 education. These were created because they thought that student progress wasn't going anywhere. We were stagnant. They also wanted to be more competitive with other countries. So they created these Common Core standards the purpose was for the entire nation to adopt these. They were designed by teachers, administrators, and experts in math and experts in English, based on research that many people had done. They wanted to align these standards with college expectations so that by the time our students graduate, the expectations are similar to what they're going to see in college. And they wanted to see a lot more higher order thinking and in-depth knowledge at an earlier age than what has been in our education system in the past. So these are the reasons for creating Common Core and kind of what they are. Nebraska has not yet adopted the Common Core standards, but I think it's important to talk about them now, especially with the election coming up. Depending on who is elected, education could change. So let's go ahead and talk about the good things on Common Core. So on the slide that I had, there are some things listed. If everybody in the United States uses Common Core, then we can be comparable to other countries. So the data that we collect by taking these tests, it'd be more comparable to the other competitive countries because these standards are more similar to what those countries have. From a stats point of view, it's hard to compare when you don't have the same exact test, but if every state is using Common Core, then we're collecting the same data and we can truly compare states and how they're doing because everyone's using the same type of curriculum and everyone is giving the same tests. This would cut spending. If everybody in the nation did use Common Core, then the state wouldn't have to spend money on creating their own tests and testing materials. They want Common Core is all about getting the higher order thinking early on, which is going to increase the rigor, which would be good for some of our students. There would be pre-test and post-tests available so that teachers could track the progress of their students with the Common Core. This is something that's already written in. This would help with mobility, especially here at Papillion La Vista South. We see a lot of military families because of Offutt Air Force Base. So those kids moving in the middle of the year, if every single state has Common Core, then they're coming from a similar class to where, they don't have to get thrown in the middle of the year to something that's completely different than what they've seen. And then the teacher collaboration dynamic completely changes. Not only can you collaborate with people within your building, in your district, but now you can collaborate with people in your state as well as people from other states. And so that would put a new element with teacher collaboration and the benefits from that. Okay, so we've looked at some positive things about Common Core. Let's look at maybe the negative side of things. With any change there's always pros and cons to look at. So things that maybe wouldn't be as great about switching to the Common Core. So you have student and teacher adjustment. Since the curriculum is going to be different, you have teachers who are going to have to put in, a lot more work than usual to get adjusted to the new curriculum. So they're going to be working more hours. Students are going to have to get used to the different way that things are going to be taught. So you have a little bit of tension there for a few years, until you get the new curriculum under your belt and students get used to how things change. This is probably also going to, force some teachers to want to retire. If you have those teachers who are getting close to that age of retirement, they might not want to go through a whole big curriculum change. They may just decide, okay, I'm going to be done here. The standards are very vague, and so the interpretation of the standards could be difficult for some districts or frustrating for some districts. Common Core requires more knowledge at a younger age, so that kind of ties in with that student adjustment, and teacher adjustment. We're going to really have to figure out how to get that knowledge into those younger kids, since that's what they're expecting. The textbooks, a lot of textbooks are going to become obsolete. If the entire nation is using Common Core, we can only use Common Core textbooks. So a lot of the textbooks that exist are going to have to we won't be able to use them anymore. Updating technology so that we can use the Common Core curriculum, that's going to cost money for some districts if their technology isn't what it needs to be. With Common Core, you get the high stakes testing, and so that's going to create some pressure for districts and states. And Common Core is only English and math. You don't have any science or social studies standards, and so not all of the core subjects are actually represented with the Common Core standards. So you would have to, even if Nebraska would adopt Common Core, it would only affect 2 of our 4 core subjects. Here is a map that shows you which states in the United States are actually using Common Core. There are some states that have implemented it fully, some states that are only partially implementing it, some states that haven't at all, some states that have implemented but they're reviewing it, whether they want to keep doing it or not, and then there are some states who have implemented and rejected it and they are not doing Common Core anymore. School districts only have so much that they can control about education because both the state and the federal government do make decisions about education. And so it's important that we know kind of what we can expect with this upcoming election. So I've listed here our 2 major presidential candidates. We have Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. So Donald Trump, his view on the Common Core standards is that he thinks that they are a disaster. And so that is something that he doesn't want to see. He plans on making some major budget cuts, especially in the Department of Education. He's going to shut down a lot of jobs in the Department of Education. He feels that we're spending too much money on education and not getting the same results on other countries who spend less money. So that's what he wants to do, is spend less money. He thinks that education should be locally managed, which is why he wants to shut down a lot of jobs at the Department of Education. He is an advocate for school choice and charter schools. He'd like to see schools be more competitive and that they would be an alternative to public education. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, she likes the ideas about the Common Core, but isn't completely happy with the Common Core, but does like what it's trying to do. She is opposed to merit pay, so that's not something that you would see if she was elected. She would like to see higher teacher salaries, and charter schools, her view on that is that they would be an option, but not a replacement for public schools. So those are the two different things that we can see from either of the major presidential candidates in this upcoming election. So a lot of decisions about education do come from the government. Sometimes people may view this as a good thing. Sometimes people may view this as a bad thing. I do want to make you all aware of what is happening in Kansas. The Kansas school districts are facing a potential shutdown, and they only have about 9 days to get this resolved. So the state government made a decision about how funding should be handled, and unfortunately, it is unconstitutional. And so right now, the state government think if they don't get it figured out by July 1st, then there's going to be a lot of funding lost for some schools, and some school districts are going to face a shutdown. So this is something that's really big, very scary. I'm sure a lot of you know about it with Kansas being so close. Many of you have family that live there. But this is very scary, and we all should be very fortunate that the state of Nebraska is not in turmoil with our money. So what you see up here is a poll everywhere. What I would need all my staff members to do would be to get out their cell phones. They text a number to join, and then they can text in their answers, and they will appear on the screen for everybody to see. So what I would like is some feedback on how my staff members feel that we could change education from a government standpoint. So I want some suggestions on how our voice as a district can be heard, or how we can encourage the community to help us with this. So some things that I would hope that would pop up on the front screen for us to talk about would be to encourage community members to go to the school board meeting, live stream school board meetings so that people could watch them and stay informed. We have a weekly newsletter that goes out, having information in this for parents to read about things that are happening with the government and education. Encouraging teachers and community members to write to their representative about any issues that they would like to see different. But I would like to see a lot of ideas about getting the community informed, as well as making our voice heard to the government about things that we would maybe want to see differently.